Hi, how's everybody doing today? This is Rich here on behalf of Rich TV Live with our very special guest. It is Obi Strickler, the CEO of Grown Rogue. How you doing today, Obi?
Doing very well, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing well. Obviously, under the circumstances, we're all in a quarantine right now, global quarantine, I guess. How is that treating you so far?
I mean, it's been a crazy, call it 30 days, right? Trying to just navigate through all the changes. I mean, it started coming out in December when you first started hearing things about, what was happening in Wuhan. But, it became real for us in like middle of March, early March. And it's just been a wild 30 days or so, it seems like. But generally, like doing good. Family is safe and healthy. We've
Good.
been quarantining for the last kind of, 25, 30 days or, give or take. I mean, I remember the day it happened was when I knew it was going to be real. They shut down the NBA. And I'm like, wow, okay, this
Yeah.
is like a big deal. They're shutting down a major sporting like league. And so, doing things that we can, right? Like Oregon, luckily, where we're based, has a really low rate of infection so far.
Great.
We're not like New York. And so, we're very lucky in that regard. But I think our citizens, our communities, like our businesses, like we've all bought into the isolation, not traveling as much, not going to restaurants, takeout is the only allowable thing right now. And so it's a group effort, right? And I think we've done a good job in our state, at least, doing that. Thankfully, cannabis is an essential business. And so we're able to stay operational and continue to push forward, our business model and provide products out to the consumers because, quite frankly, a lot of them are utilizing cannabis now as a solution as part of their, health and wellness component. So, kind of a big deal, right? I mean, crappy situation, but it shows you how far cannabis has come to be deemed an essential business in these states. And 5 years ago it was still illegal. So, a lot of work to be done, but it's changing fast.
Yeah, I did a video yesterday about the fact that the Ontario government deemed it
Mhm.
non-essential, which
Yep.
I thought was mind-boggling.
Mhm.
I'm so confused about the Canadian government stance on cannabis right now. I have no idea what they're doing. And I don't think they do because they made it legal. Then they announced that they're going to have like thousands of stores in Ontario. There's 52. So they destroyed all the LPs because all the
Yep.
LPs were anticipating having thousands of stores and there's only 52. And then they went and decided that it's not even essential. Let's just shut it down. And to make it even more interesting, which I think is pretty clear to me what the government is doing here in Canada, I think they want to self run this cannabis sector. I don't think they want the LPs to exist. I think the government wants to run the cannabis business in Canada. And I think it's clear. So much money on the table, make sure that everybody gets squeezed out, right? Make
Yep.
sure they all run out of money, buy them all out at 10 cents on the dollar. Now there's all kinds of money from the government, billions of dollars of bailout money, which they
Yep.
can literally use now to go and acquire these businesses for 10 cents on the dollar. Pretty genius, I guess, if you're the government, but sucks for investors and it sucks if you're the LPs because they never got a fair shot. And they were promised thousands of stores and only had 52 in Ontario, the largest province in the country. And now they decided to shut down all 52 stores, stating it was non-essential. So they had a emergency meeting with all the LPs on Tuesday, and they, in 2 days, changed the law to state that it is essential all of a sudden. Because do you know what they were doing, Obi? This is how stupid the government here is in Canada, and how they have no freaking clue. Okay, so they shut down 52 stores, and the black market guys were standing outside of the stores, giving out business cards saying, "Hey, you guys need cannabis? The stores are shut down. Go to our website." And they
Yeah.
were giving out business cards and information to websites that are online with what the government is calling the illicit black market guys.
Yep.
What do you
Yep.
think was going to happen?
Of course.
Like, they were here before you started. You think they were going to just shut down their business because Ontario decided to shut down their stores? Come on, guys. Like, this is basic stuff. Would you agree, Obi? Like, this is basic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and so I actually hadn't read yet that they had changed their opinion that they're now allowing them to be essential business. The thing that blew me away when I read that, I think it was Tuesday or Monday, that alcohol was deemed an essential business, but cannabis was not, which I thought was just like a huge miss, right? I mean, I don't think there's anyone that would deny whether you agree with alcohol or cannabis or not that cannabis is probably a safer product.
How
Right,
can
from a
you?
lifestyle standpoint. And so,
How do
I
you?
mean,
Show me one
yeah,
person. Show me one person in the world who has gotten healthier because of alcohol.
yeah, exactly, right. I mean, there's like, as long as you're not abusing it, like there's, value there. But I thought that was extremely ironic that you would, and then the other thing, like, and I was talking to one of my partners who lives up in Toronto, obviously they're going through all the restrictions. He said, and then the online stores, they don't allow to ship directly to your door. So you have to go to like the post office or whatever the place where the Ontario online store will ship to. And those shipping locations are inside of like, shopping malls or, pharmacy centers. And so you're going to go stand in line with a bunch of other people with the whole point of like, it's just better to go to a store. Like the whole rollout just seemed like it's been flawed inside of Canada. That being said, I think they go with best intentions. You hope that they're going with best intentions. They don't always make the right decisions. Sound like they corrected it, so that's good. But I tend to be an optimist. I want I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But you know, Canada has not rolled out regulatory structure in the best.
No, it's been a nightmare, especially for investors. I mean, the LPs, whatever, I couldn't care less about the LPs. And the cannabis sector, whatever, it is what it is. But as investors, nobody cares about us. And I'm going to give you an example. So Ontario decides cannabis is non-essential. We're shutting down 52 stores. We're going to open up thousands at the beginning of the year. They're like, we're going to open up thousands. There's only 52. So right there, lie. Now we're going to support cannabis. A year ago, they legalized it. Now they shut down 52 stores. Lie number 2. Now let's talk about lie number 3. We're going to support the cannabis business. And guess which was the only business that was open for customers when they decided to shut everything down? Take a big guess.
It was the state-run store, right?
Of course. The Ontario Cannabis Store, operated by the province of Ontario, was the only online store open legally for business. Really? Come on, guys. Like, could you be any more obvious? Could you be any more obvious about what you're trying to do here? Like, it's pretty clear that the government now wants to take over this business. But, man, could you be any more obvious? Shut everything down and keep one online store open, and it's the provincial-run Ontario Cannabis Store? Like, come on, guys. What a joke.
It sounds like you're pretty passionate about it.
Well, I'm just tired of it. Like, it's only been a year. I've seen so many people lose money, Obi, in the cannabis sector in Canada. It's really heartbreaking to see people losing their life savings,
We've been predicting that for 18 months. Like in the U.S., as we look north, and we were like, there was really 2 big things we talked about. It was like, Canada is pioneering this wave of legalization, which is like amazing, right? Like they really took as like a G7 country, the first like kind of big approach to be like, we're going all in, we're going to legalize it. And that was amazing, right? Super, like just awesome. At the same time, we looked at the Canadian market and said, how is this feasible? Right? You got 40 million people, it's all spread out, it's a big country. How are you building such valuations for these organizations when, the market is not yet determined? And it's kind of coming to fruition, right? Like I feel really bad for those investors, but they got really caught up in this green rush, right? This like excitement because there was really no data to support. Like you believe when someone said, hey, I'm going to build 1 million square feet because there's an unlimited market and demand. And I remember doing the quick math, like when we were going through our RTO, working with my banker saying, you realize that like the amount of constructed square footage of cultivation at like 8% of the total will satisfy the entire Canadian market. Because we were going through it in Oregon, right? We were seeing the compression and the pressure and the price reductions. And it's holding true. Like I think Canada's 2019 revenue was what, 1.2 billion? I think was the number. Oregon, which is one of the smallest states in the US, we did $800 million in sales. We're like one state. Everyone talks about how crappy it is. And the $400,000 difference still, but think about that. And maybe it was 1.2 billion Canadian, which would be closer to Oregon's 800,000 US. Like Oregon as a state is almost as big as the entire Canadian market.
That's mind-boggling.
Think
And
about that.
yeah, and it goes to show how much the black market is winning in Canada. I was speaking to Delta 9 Cannabis CEO, and he's a great company. I don't know if you're familiar with Delta 9 Cannabis, but John, I bring him on our show quite a bit, and I'm really impressed with him. And they're profitable, and they're running a good business, and they're just slowly growing. They're not like one of these guys, like you mentioned, these monsters trying to build these huge facilities, trying to have first mover advantage. He's just running a good business like you are. He's just running a good business, trying to focus on his margins, trying to focus on profitability. He's not trying to over promote and under deliver like so many other companies have already done, right? And that's why he's moving on the right track. And that's why I really like you. You're moving on the right track because you're focused on running a good business. It's not a hype business, it's a real business. Now let's get into your business. How has this coronavirus pandemic affected your business, if at all? And what does it look like for Grown Rogue moving forward right now in the middle of this pandemic?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, when this came through, we really started analyzing, where would the impacts come to us? The first one was, will they shut down our operations, which would have been fairly devastating, right? Because, we rely upon our revenue on a monthly basis. So we got deemed essential business. That was the first step. Second thing we started looking was how is it going to impact our retail partners, right? Because those are ultimately our purchasers of our product. We're a B2B2C. And so far, we've seen little to no impact to our business, to date. Knock on wood that it doesn't change. I mean, maybe a little bit of variance in, volume and people buying. They're being a little bit more conservative with, the orders that they put in. But our revenue in March was great. April's off to a good start. And so we have not really seen much of an impact.
Very good.
Other than, just, I guess not little, but, again, it's early, right? Like the ramifications of the economic impacts that we're having are just starting to show. Michigan is slightly different. So that when I say that about Oregon, really no impact on, Michigan, they no longer allow customers to come into the store. So it's all curbside pickup. And, we're early in Michigan. The market's much smaller there. And it's just it's in its infancy in terms of being built. And so, we're seeing a little bit of price compression there as I think the consumers are not able to go out as much. But so far, again, knock on wood, we feel really lucky as compared to like restaurants, hotels, the travel industry. So many of them are just shut down. So we hope that continues, right? That we're able to continue to provide our products. Like from an operational standpoint, we put a lot of restrictions inside of our facility from, social distancing, even as people are working, more disinfecting and cleaning of high touch areas, because we can't afford to have the, COVID run through our facility for obvious reasons. But, we're confident this will continue. But, it's taken a toll, like on people, our teams got more stress, more anxiety, while we still might be an essential business, maybe the spouses of our, people that work with us, have lost their jobs or been laid off. And so there's just a higher level of tension generally across the organization. But, so far, it's hasn't been good. And, that'll really be reflected in our Q2, earnings that are, we're in April and, Q2 goes, this will be the end of Q2. And hopefully it's good because Q1 was fantastic, right? Really showed kind of our, business model and transition we started implementing back in about spring of 2019. As you mentioned it earlier, we saw the shift of really the industry was built on capital markets experts and it's still very important, but the day of just making a promise through a presentation has ended. There's real data, there's real expectations in which companies can build a business. And, to be cash flow positive in operations in Q1, it's huge. I don't know all the companies out there, but I've went through a lot of financials and not too many can make that claim. So that was like a big win for us, a huge increase on our gross margin as we focused on those products and really into our core competencies. So,
Have you reported your Q1?
Yeah, Q1 went out, April 1st or something like that?
Okay, so it just went out. So that was the spike I saw in your stock, right?
That was, yeah, you saw big, that was the day we had, that was our biggest volume trading day.
Okay, can we
Uh,
talk about those financials? Let's talk about it. Can we get
yeah,
into more
so,
details,
you
please?
know, yeah, we reported 33% increase in overall sales,
Wow.
right? But remember that, but a double of Grow Rogue sales from Q1 19. And the key component there is while sales increased as a whole, we essentially eliminated our distribution division of our company because it was such low margin and was creating revenue but no profit. And we said, why are we doing this? And so we still had a revenue spike, but we doubled the revenue of our internal products. So our
Great.
high quality, high margin branded products, our indoor sales. So essentially our production tripled just
Wow.
about, right? And so our production efficiency got way better. Our gross margin, I think, went from, 20-ish% almost to 60, so
Wow.
almost tripled our gross margin. And then again, we made from operations about $150,000 in profit,
Nice.
a
Good
little
work.
over, like 1.1 million in total sales. So, still a small company, but on the right path towards sustainability and being able to support ourselves. So that was that was a huge quarter for us,
Oh
uh,
yeah. I mean,
compared to the
this
progress we made.
this is so important, Obi. Congratulations on your success because this is what I'm trying to explain to people. Cannabis Growth has yet to ever show a profit, guys.
Yep.
Chronos Group has yet to ever show a profit. Aurora Cannabis has yet to ever show a profit.
Yep.
You guys, small company, are showing a profit. So if a small company can show a profit and a big company can't show a profit, why am I going to buy Aurora Cannabis? Why am I going to buy Chronos Group? I'm not going to touch them. I'd
Yep.
rather buy Grown Rogue because, yes, you're a small company, but you also got a small market cap. You're just
Yep.
an evolving story. And as a small company, you're more profitable than some of these billion-dollar market cap companies.
It's crazy. I mean, again, I don't throw shade at anyone, but I looked at Kronos the other day and I'm like, man, they did like $7 million for the quarter, which is more than us. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, they got $1 billion in cash. I don't know what their market cap is. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's almost an injustice, right?
Totally.
And I think the investors are shifting their perspective from, and I think a couple big things. One, like the days of just a promotional approach is over, right? You have to actually deliver upon the things you're predicting. Which is why you're seeing most of the big MSOs, the LPs, they're all retracting their guidance. They're all like, oh crap, we made another big commitment that we're not going to hit. We better just pull that
Yeah.
back. And that's probably been like the biggest thing you've seen come through. And then there's like core competency. I mean, so many people got spread out and they're in too many states with too many verticals. And they didn't appreciate, and the investors got sucked into this, but the executives as well is how do we scale a business efficiently? And they just thought it would be so easy, right? And they're realizing how hard it is to scale and be like just disciplined in your financial approach and the M&A activity you do. And they got overextended. And you're seeing a lot of retraction. You're seeing a lot of people trying to sell divest their non-core assets. And I don't think the end's there. I think companies like ours who are, probably stabilized out at the bottom are now recovering, showing good, like the metrics investors are starting to look at. Just like you said, like, would you rather be invested in a company that's small with a reasonable market cap that has a path to success, or continue to invest in these big companies who are still promising success, right? Which one? The people that are delivering success or promising success?
I think it's a
I like to think
no-brainer.
people that are delivering success.
I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, one of the things that really concerned me about Aurora Cannabis, everybody knows about Aurora Cannabis, but one of the things that really concerned me about them is they touted that they were in 25 countries. But when you look at the revenue, there's no revenue. So
Yeah.
you say you're in 25 countries, where's the revenue? I'm so mind boggled by it. It's like you're in 25 countries and there's no revenue in any of those countries. So you're just losing money. You're
Yep.
essentially just burning money. And now, and I can't even imagine what that's like, having to have fires all over the world that you got to put out. because you're losing money all over the world and your walls are caving in on you. That's what's
Yep.
happening to Aurora Cannabis. People don't understand. Like, Aurora Cannabis is running out of money, guys,
Yep.
because you can't continuously be losing money quarter over quarter over quarter. And then people wonder what happened to Aurora. Aurora lied to us. They put out a press release saying that they were doing a deal with Coca-Cola. Lie. They put out a press release like a year ago saying that they'd be profitable by the end of 2019. Lie. So now
Yep.
the CEO gone, CFO gone, like all these guys are gone.
And
It's a sinking ship right now. Like it's a sinking ship that's got leaks everywhere, and nobody really knows how to fix it. These guys ran this into the ground, and I'll be honest with you, Obi, because being in Canada, it's been a crazy shift. Because about a year ago, yeah, about a year ago, before the crash happened, which started about a year ago, almost to the day.
May, I track it as May 1st. May 1st was kind of the peak
Yeah, of
of these
where
companies.
we
Like middle of April, middle of May, but like May 1st was the date I've always put on when I do analysis for my shareholders or my advisors. Is like, here's the date it happened.
where the crash started the last
Yeah.
year. So almost a year to almost a year to the day
Great.
where this thing
Yep.
started to just go down. And I
Yep.
remember like it was yesterday because I was really heavily into the cannabis stocks, and obviously I still am, but I'm more diversified now because I've realized that there just isn't the same excitement about it. And I'm going to tell you what I feel was the change. Here in Canada, when the cannabis was hot, that's all you would hear about. Like when you would go to Market Watch or you would go to TMX Money, which is the Canadian version of Market Watch,
Yep.
all you would hear about was cannabis stocks. It was on the headlines. It was all everyone talked about. It was all everyone was investing in. So one day, and it was around this time last year, I remember watching TMX Money, and they made a comment and they said, we're not going to continuously push only cannabis stocks. We also got to focus on other sectors.
Yep.
That was the switch. I don't know what happened there, but it was almost as if all the big guys that make all the decisions said, hey guys, we can't have everyone's money pump into cannabis. We got to have them invest in oil. We got to have them invest in gold. We got to have them invest in technology. Everyone's money is driving in cannabis. So there was a switch. And ever since that switch, it was almost as if they stopped talking about cannabis and it's just all become gold. It's switched to gold. Gold, precious metals, tech, coronavirus stocks,
Yeah,
vaccine
I got the
stocks.
picture now.
It's completely changed. Whereas a year ago, it was everyone was pushing cannabis, 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 and now a year later, it's like cannabis is the ugly stepsister, it's the ugly duckling, and nobody wants to talk about it. It's the same thing. It's the same sector. It's the same product. Things really haven't changed, other than the fact that there's been a lot of lies from the government. There's been a lot of missteps, especially here in Canada. I can't speak for the US, but it's been a nightmare for investors here in Canada. And the entire sector is pretty much dead. It went from being the hottest sector in Canada by far. Everybody was investing in cannabis. Everybody. To a dead sector that nobody wants to touch with a 10-foot pole. Now, does that signal a buying opportunity? I don't know, because there's so many variables still to deal with.
Yeah,
What do
the
you think
issue
about all
right
that?
now, right, that investors need to look at is, I think most companies, the good companies have hit the bottom and they're stabilized. So like you're looking at an investment now, you need to make sure you're researching enough about the management team, how aligned they are with, growth versus shareholders, but more importantly, like there's companies that are still going out of business.
Oh yes.
And so while the bottom has been hit, and there's still some volatility, but Grown Rogue's been stabilized at, call it 10 cents for the last 6 months. That's just where we've been sitting, right? So I don't think we're going down much more. There's a little bit of blips, but with our releases and results, we're now on the trajectory back up. Whereas you're starting to see more bankruptcies. CanTrust just filed, James Wagner, Dime was kind of the first one in the kind of a U.S. company, but listed up in Canada.
I know Ianthus took a
Ianthus
huge hit this week.
Defaulted on their convertible. Yep. And so you're going to start seeing some of this come through because again, like Grown Rogue's gone through some challenging times, but we started these shifts a year ago towards like, and you hit it on the head earlier there talking about Aurora, where they're claiming they're in 25 countries, right? Makes tons of sense, right? 25 countries, it's a great metric to tout. But the correlative effect, and this is the same thing Grown Rogue did, we used to tout how many dispensaries we were in because we could talk about our market penetration, which is one of the metrics investors like to see. Oh,
Yes.
you're in 10, now you're in 20, now you're in 100. What they didn't do is dig into the detail is of those, I think at one point we were in almost 300 shops in Oregon.
Wow.
Which is great, right? Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Of those 300, only 50 were doing all the business.
Okay.
So we were servicing these accounts, right? Just like, Aurora is servicing, a country to promote a number, but you're losing money on it.
That's right.
Right? Because we drive like 8 pound all the way to the coast. By the time you paid your driver, your insurance, like it would make no economic sense.
Of course.
And so we've shifted the model towards, what we call fewer better.
Very
Right
good.
now, we're in a lot less dispensaries. It's not even a number we talk about because honestly, who cares about the number of dispensaries? It's about revenue. It's about profit. It's about core competency. And that's what companies need to focus on today. I think you're seeing that shift. The issue would be is for how many companies did they shift to?
I think Trulieve has done a great job of that. Trulieve,
Trulieve,
I follow them on Twitter, and every time they open up a new store, it's bam, we got a new store number, I don't know, they're probably close to 50 now or something. Store number 47, congratulations. And they do this big buildup, and I think they do a good job of it. And they're also one of the more profitable companies in the entire sector. So,
did a fantastic job of core competency in Florida only. I mean, they own like 50% of the Florida market.
And it's a huge market.
They're probably one of the few, and I don't even think they're an MSO. They're Florida only. But they're one of the larger U.S. companies that just said, this is our goal. This is our plan. We're going to stick to it. We're not going to get attracted by these shiny objects. And they've done a fantastic job as compared to, again, like a lot of the MSOs are just way spread out. Harvest, Acreage, MedMen. You go down the list, and it was this incessant need to drive growth through acquisition and expansion, because those were the metrics people were investing and valuing companies on. And so that's changed, right? You got to shift with it. And so, today I think investors should be looking at fundamentals, and disciplined growth.
Is Trulieve the company that you kind of look at? Are they like the example in America right now? Because when I look at the companies that are profitable, I look at Trulieve. I look at them number one, right? Is that an example that you kind of are modeling your business after? Are they kind of the company you look at and say, okay, we want to generate revenue the way they have? Is that a fair example?
Yeah, I think Trulieve is a very unique story. I don't think you can really model your approach after them because I think they got in, it was probably through disciplined approach, but they got in early into cannabis. And I think a lot of the ability to raise huge sums of money in the cannabis sector, at least for the next 6, 12, 18 months, has gone away. And they picked a state with high barriers to entry. And, most states are looking at the different regulatory rollouts. And so when you see another state that has that type of restrictive entry points with the excitement in the cannabis markets and then their singular focus. And those are the three things they did. They had singular focus, they had a great state with high barriers to entry, and they had excitement in the market. And those three categories, if they come again, right, would be great for a company to take advantage of that, but say like a Texas or another one of these big, kind of consumer markets. But Grown Rogue's not modeling after Trulieve. They've got a very unique plan that they're successful with. We have our own model, which is high quality, low cost cultivation. Flower is still probably it's still the largest single product category in almost every state. Everyone talked about, hey, end of flower is coming. It's all crap, right? It's still the largest market product in every state that I think in the U.S., probably even in Canada.
Oh, for sure it is in Canada. I mean, vaping had its time, and edibles will have their time, and drinks will have their time. But everybody, at the end of the day, it's cannabis. It's all about the cannabis, and it's like cryptocurrency. Everyone talks about all these cryptocurrencies, and I always say it's about Bitcoin, guys. The only cryptocurrency that matters is Bitcoin. It's the same
Yep.
thing with cannabis. You can have all these ancillary products. At the end of the day, it's about the cannabis. All
Yep.
right? It's
Yep.
about the
Yep.
cannabis.
Exactly.
It's about the cannabis. It's about the cannabis because
Yep.
everything stems from the cannabis. The extractors, they extract from the cannabis.
Yep.
Everything comes from that plant. So at the end of the day, it's all about the cannabis, and I agree with you. Now, one thing that is very interesting is I don't hear much about what's going on in America. Like everything's gone quiet. It's weird.
Yep.
If you notice this, nobody talking about legalization anymore recreationally on a national federal level. Safe Banking Act was voted on, but it has yet to really be passed. Lots of different uh, banking acts and cannabis acts that have been voted on have yet to be passed. What's going on with the cannabis sector in the United States right now? It just seems to be really quiet.
I think two things. I think the COVID has obviously put, restrictions across a lot of things. But I think more fundamentally is when the markets were booming and there was tons of money flowing in, a lot of these kind of longer term strategies could be focused on. Like the exec teams weren't worried about like, what's happening in my grow facility or my retail store, or, what's happening in the state. It's kind of like the long term, like 5 to 10 year plans. And I think over the last 6 months, 8 months, everyone's like, holy, we have to get very tactical. Like what's happening in our business today and how are we going to make sure we don't run out of money and actually build something that we can support ourselves? Because you watch, no more money's coming into the space. And so worrying about safe banking, worrying about federal legalization, that's all great down the road, but not if you're not surviving to get to that point. And so I think a lot of people have stopped focusing on that and worrying about more, what's happening with our business today. Now that there's no more equity markets, a lot of people want to sale leasebacks, but like, how are we going to manage through to create a sustainable business? Because if we can't do that, it doesn't matter if you get safe banking. It doesn't matter if federal legalization occurs because we don't have a business. And so I think that's why you've seen a lot more quietness as companies are going from external promotion to internal assessment.
Now, for an investor that's looking at this sector right now,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying that you think it's at a bottom. Now, I agree with you. We're definitely at a bottom. We've been going down for an entire year, and it just seems like there's no end in sight. I keep thinking we hit the bottom, and it goes lower, and then I keep
Yeah.
thinking we hit the bottom, and it goes lower, and it's been just disheartening actually to watch it just keep going down and keep going down and keep going down while the markets have actually been very strong. We had a global market, and especially in America, where we hit all time highs in February, right?
Yep.
And then the market had a massive crash, and now
Yep.
the market's kind of coming back with no real reason, right? What do you think about that? Like, what's going on in the market right now? Like, are you anticipating a crash in this market? Because I'm anticipating a crash
A crash in the cannabis or a crash in the markets in general?
in general, just because, like, we are okay. So the Fed is pumping in billions of dollars into these markets to sustain the market.
Trillions in the US.
Trillion, yeah, but I mean, on a daily basis, I believe they've pumped in like 6.2 trillion in the last 2 days into the markets.
Yep.
So they're artificially stimulating the markets, right?
Well, they're trying to fix the economic slump, right? They're predicting, you're going to see a 25 or 30% reduction in, GDP in the U.S. I think from, and these are crazy numbers, right? But 20 trillion to 15. When you're talking about zeros, like, between friends, who cares, right?
It's crazy.
But, how are they going to overcome that? Because I think they are worried about, just the economic crash and trying to, overcome a recessionary period. I'll be honest, like I got a much longer term horizon, right? Like I'm not about to retire. Like I haven't like pulled my money out of my stocks. Like just like, like I'm playing the long game, right? Both with my own company and Grown Rogue, as well as like, the other investments that I have personally. And so is it impactful? Yes. But I don't spend a lot of time thinking about or worrying about some sort of crash because I think, long term, we've proven as a society, we're going to continue to grow and create progress, and companies are going to move upwards as they bring new innovative products to the market and continue to execute and, provide revenue and EBITDA and, core kind of, financial metrics. And I think fear really, Rich, is one of the big problems today, and fear and greed, right? So investors really get caught into those two kind of primary facets. And, I think I think in the COVID environment, you've seen both of those happen very quickly, like massive fear at the sell-off, and all of a sudden a bunch of greed as the stimulus came in, and you're just seeing a lot of volatility. And I think you need to look past the noise, and, it's really hard if you look at the markets on a daily basis or a weekly. You gotta man, cannabis, right? In early March, California was up 100%, Colorado was up 50% in terms of like weekly retail sales. And everyone was talking about, oh my God, jump into cannabis because look how much the revenue in the retail is up. People are buying a lot more. But what they didn't realize is, like, I go to the grocery store now maybe once a week. I still need food for a whole week. I used to, my wife, we go to the store 3 or 4 times a week to buy food. We like fresh food and all that. So our volume is not, the amount of money we spend has not changed, but the volume of the frequency has changed, right? It's 1 versus 4. So the amount of money we're spending has changed. So if we went in on a Monday and bought $600 worth of food, you'd be like, oh my goodness, like, look how much more people are buying. But then there was no sales for the rest of it.
That's right. So it evens out. So it's going to even out.
Right? It's exactly right.
Now,
good way to play a long description. It evens out over time. That's exactly right.
We know that you guys are still an essential service. So I'm not really worried about cannabis stocks, to be quite honest with you, because like you said, they're an essential service, especially in America right now. You guys are okay. You guys, like you said, you just had your best quarter ever, despite all of this. So it seems to me like cannabis is going to actually get through this because they're an essential service. Now, travel stocks, airline stocks, hotel stocks, cruise line stocks, they've been exploding. And people have been asking me, Rich, do you recommend any travel stocks? And I'm like, no way, man. Because regardless of what they're doing right now, on the short term, everybody has to be prepared for the fact that they are going to be literally showing anywhere from 70% to 90%, maybe even 100% losses for these Qs.
Yep.
That is going to be horrific on the stocks at some point. And I'm trying to explain this to people because people are like, oh yeah, Carnival Cruise Line's up. I'm like, they're making no money. They're making zero. They're parked on the side of the ocean. These businesses are going to suffer greatly. So despite the fact that you could short-term day trade and make some money, I will not put my money into anything in the travel business whatsoever because I'm anticipating a horrific earnings season coming. Q1, Q2, Q3 for the entire travel industry. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's irrefutable, right? Restaurants, anything to do with people and their movement across the planet, and even spas and salons, there's going to be a massive economic impact. The question is when is the buying time? Right? Because you go into I was looking at, because probably the biggest constraint we've had with COVID is the inability of me to go to Michigan and check on that project. Right? I mean, I have great communication. I talk to my partner every day. I talk to the team there, but there's nothing that replaces seeing. And so just yesterday, I'm like, probably need to get to Michigan sometime soon, even though it's kind of a hot spot in Detroit. I looked at flights, and I can get a flight to Michigan now for like $300. Normally it's like $1,000. I mean, give or take, right? Anywhere from $700 to $1,000 bucks. I can go round trip to Michigan for $300.
So you can still travel within the United States by airfare?
Yeah, there's still flights going.
See, I don't think we can even do that in Canada.
You can't get on a plane in Canada?
No.
Really? No, there's still flights.
There's no travel in Canada. Like, I went on to WestJet because I have a villa in the Dominican Republic and I wanted to see flights. They don't have any flights booked until May. Nothing.
So there's still flights in the U.S. You can still go on an airplane. Like, I've heard they're very limited in terms of the people. And then again, I was talking to this guy in Toronto yesterday. He was, talking about the Canadian rollouts and all that stuff. But he said there was ghost flights going on, I guess, to some of the larger airports because one of the most important things an airline has is their gate. It's like a New York taxi medallion, right? And they cost a lot of money, and you have to use that gate with so many flights, or you lose it. So they were literally airlines were shipping back and forth, flying back and forth from like New York to London just to maintain their flights in and out of airports,
Oh my goodness.
which was crazy, right? Like
They're just burning money, man. They're just burning
burning
money.
money. Like, I mean, they're going to get a little bit of a bailout. Like, the government has given some, to the travel industry, airplane or airlines in particular. But I mean, there is some positives, right? Let's look on the bright side, right? I spend more time with my family.
Oh yeah.
We don't eat out, so that's like healthier. Like we see that maybe 3 or 4 times a week. Like we eat them every now and again, or every day now. It's fantastic. Pollution is down. Like they're sending pictures like in China and LA. Like, there is some positives that are hopefully people will take. A lot of impacts, a lot of negatives, but we got to look at some of the things that I think this is forcing people to evaluate what's important. But I mean, it's crazy. I mean, let's be honest. COVID with the shutdown and things. I mean, like my kids are out of school. Schools are probably canceled for the rest of the year. Like it is nothing like this has ever happened in our lifetime. Probably ever happen again.
Well, yeah, look at what it's done. It's delayed the Olympics a year. So all those athletes, they've been training for this moment for their entire lives. And now all of them can't even train. So could you imagine what the Olympics would even look like? How horrible it would be with a bunch of athletes that haven't trained properly? People would be getting injured. People would be performing horribly. You wouldn't see a lot of new Olympic records, I'm sure. A great example, too, is the UFC. One of the biggest fights ever in UFC history. Khabib versus Tony Ferguson. It's been canceled 5 times. They say it's cursed. It got canceled because of COVID. I mean, whoever anticipated COVID would be the reason why the fight got canceled. Khabib is stuck in Russia. He's the champion. So Justin Gaethje just came in. He's going to fight Tony Ferguson. They don't even know where the fight's going to be. It's in a concealed location. Dana White was talking about this yesterday. He's like, they're asking him, so where are they going to fight? He's like, I can't tell you. He's like, so do the fighters know where they're going to fight? He's like, nope. Nobody knows where we're going to fight because he's saying there's so many crazy fans that if he announces where he's going to fight, they're going to show up. So they've got a venue somewhere in America. So check this out. It's crazy. They got a venue and they're going to be fighting. But even the fighters, they can't train properly because you can't train with 5 people. There's like limitations with how many people you can be around. So you can't train with more than a few people. You can only have a few people in your corner. Like it's just weird. And they're going to be fighting in an empty arena.
Black. Be so goofy, right? They were talking about doing that in the sports leagues about having no fans.
Yeah, but you know what? I actually like what Dana White is doing. He's genius because he's sitting here thinking all these sports are shut down. Everybody's at home on a Saturday. I'm going to put on an event. Do you know how massive his pay-per-views are going to be?
That's a really good point.
Everybody's at home. Nobody's got anything to do. People are dying to see sports. So what he's doing, which is actually genius, he's sitting here thinking, I'm going to get all the soccer fans, all the baseball fans, all the football fans, all the hockey fans, every other sport that's shut down, which is every sport in the world. He's going to get all those kind of fringe fans that have never watched UFC before. They're going to be watching on April 18th.
Absolutely. No, definitely there's a fringe.
Right? So it's kind of a smart move. Like he's taking advantage of a bad situation. And you know what he said? He goes, everybody's waiting to start. He goes, we're going to be the first. And he goes, I guarantee you, once we do it, you're going to see all the other sports are going to start again. He goes, because what are we going to do? Just shut down all of our businesses forever?
Yep.
We got to start again. He goes, we got to start again. He goes, and I agree with him. He goes, I'm not going to just sit at home for 2 months and Netflix and chill. He goes, I can't Netflix and chill. I got a $1 billion business that's losing money every day. I got to get my business back. He goes, so if I got to put on fights with no fans in the stands, that's what I'm going to do. So check this out. This is how crazy smart he is. He found an island.
Yeah, I read about that, right? He's going to rent like an island.
Got his own island. So he's going to be flying fighters into this island where they're going to be able to fight. That is amazing. So I love the fact that there are people out there like Dana White that are really creative, you know?
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
found a way to turn a negative, very negative situation that's affecting the whole world, and he's finding a way to put the spotlight on his sport.
Well, think
Genius.
about, I mean, so genius for sure. One-on-one, like much easier to manage than like a team sport.
Totally.
But, no, the NBA's been talking about that, because that's my favorite sport,
Yeah.
basketball, and about taking players to cities like the entire NBA and they isolate
Yeah.
play without fans, and maybe they're looking at the same thing, using pay-per-view as the solution, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I hadn't thought about that, but that's really brilliant. Forget all of like the ads you're going to get from like standard cable or ESPN or whatever. I mean, who knows where their contracts are? But I'm sure you could add a pay-per-view version. But it'd be interesting, right? Because like the major sports have contracts with these big, like whatever NBC, ESPN. Like, could they do a pay-per-view solution where the UFC might be a little bit more fluid, right, in terms of what their capabilities are? But I mean, people would pay a lot of money to watch a UFC fight
Especially
right
now, because we're all sitting at home playing with our thumbs going, man, I miss hockey night in Canada. I'm missing NFL is coming up, and my favorite sport's the NFL, and that's coming around the corner. And I heard in California, they already announced that they will not be playing in California.
Really?
Yeah. The governor of California stated they will not be playing in California in September, after many people came out already and said that they will be doing the NFL in September. So there's all these different mixed
I mean, the
messages.
crazy part here, right, is what happens in the fall after we've solved COVID and things open back up. When a kid gets COVID or an athlete gets, we're going to shut down again, right? That's the bigger question I have more recently. Like,
I don't
what
think
are we
so.
going to do after this shutdown, unless we have a cure, a vaccine, or some sort of like pill? Like, what are we going to do when it crops back up in 6 months or a year? Because we can't do this again. Like, we cannot do this.
I think that after this, it's here and we live with it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think after this, it's here and we live with it. We unprecedented. The whole world shutting down. It's destroying our entire global economy. It's unprecedented, and I hope we never have to do it again. But we've done it. We've taken this huge action, and it's working. Like here in Vancouver, we were really growing. We were the number one spot in Canada, and all of a sudden, and people weren't taking it seriously. So what happened was we had a lot of cases. We were leading the country. Now everybody's really taking it seriously. People are staying home, and our cases have gone down tremendously. I believe yesterday we only had 25 cases, which is pretty small. And we were having 100 a day previous to that. So it's a big reduction, and now we're starting to have some hope. But the only reason why there's so little cases is because we're all at home. So like you said, when we all go back to work and we start not being, I mean, I guess we're going to have to social distance for a while. I think that's going to have to stay that way. I would say for the rest of this year. Just
I was talking about the other day, like even when restaurants open back up, like they're probably going to maintain that separation.
Yeah, they're going to have to.
Between tables, so maybe it's only half capacity. I mean, my wife and I were talking about this yesterday. Like we think half the restaurants in our area won't open back up.
Yeah, restaurants are the toughest business. I mean, 50% of all businesses that are restaurants are going to fail anyways. Now you take away no income for months, they're done.
And think about all the ones that opened up in the last 6 months who are starting to establish, and I mean just the impact on small business. Like hopefully the stimulus helps, but I think half of small businesses in the U.S. Have less than 27 days worth of cash.
Wow.
You know what I mean, so you shut them down for a month with no revenue, they're done.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. And the rollout of the stimulus has brought problems in terms of timing and when payments come. The overall impact is yet to be. It's crazy, but here we are, and doing the best we can to work through it, and hopefully it kind of works itself out. I mean, like I read some stuff last night about models for individual states and what they expect, and luckily, like Oregon, I think has some of these smallest expectations of deaths per 100,000 people, number of cases. And I kind of laughed and I said, yeah, it's because Oregonians have been self-distancing for the last 50 years. So we're already there.
Probably true. Everybody's just smoking their weed, right? Keeping their
Yeah, we're
distance and
all in,
smoking their weed at home.
like their space.
You know,
So yeah, Rich, I know we're coming up. We got just a few minutes. Anything else about like Grown Rogue, or like, was there any questions from any of the people watching today? Like,
I don't really
um,
have any questions from the people. I think you've answered them pretty well. Is there
okay.
anything else that you want to talk about Grown Rogue? I think it's great that you guys are profitable. It's great that you guys are considered an essential service and you not having any real impact on your growth of your business, despite the fact that we're having this global shutdown. So I think that's great news, and I think that's great for investors to know that you're going to persist and move in the right direction. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I think that those when we hit on it good. It's been great to reconnect after a month or so. I mean, Q1, if they have, you haven't looked at, we kind of summarized, tripled our gross margin, tripled our indoor production rate, doubled our revenue for internal products, 33% as a total, first quarter of, profitability from operations. I think the big thing to watch will be, how does Q2 turn out? Because Q2 occurs kind of during this pandemic. And so far the data is, suggesting it's going to be as good or better than what we saw in Q1.
Wow.
Which is really, really exciting. And, we're starting to see some seasonality, right? Some of these numbers are, associated with our sun-grown component and the additional revenue that we bring in, as is typical with a manufacturer who has outdoor production. But, we're really seeing the fruits of the decisions we made 6 or 8 months ago being reflected in the Q1 earnings. And, the company is just excited. We had a big day when we announced that numbers. I think we sold we had 1.2 million shares moved through the system. Some of that was bought by insiders. I think that's another important thing. Like my CFO bought 400,000 shares that day.
Wow.
Which goes to show you how excited he is about, just the process of what we're doing and the changes we're making. When management believes, that's a really good sign for shareholders.
Totally.
And we got a committed management team here. So we're excited about the next quarter and years and bringing Michigan online. We just hope everyone stays safe as well. People watching, but maintain the social distancing and stay safe over the next couple months as we get through this pandemic.
Do you guys have any plans? I know right now things are crazy, but are you guys just staying status quo? You guys have any other plans of new markets or any acquisitions, or are you just going to stay status quo right now and just keep growing the business and keep moving on your path?
It's a great question. We're looking at we need to scale, right? Like Grown Rogue's established a profitable model, but we have public overhead costs and there's a corporate expense to what we do. And so our biggest thing for me is, how do we scale up? We're never going to be a canopy growth per se, and I don't think we want to, right? But we need to build the organization a little bit better. So our primary near-term focus is, the Oregon operations. I mean, we're doing incremental improvements now. You know what I mean? Like we're trying to get production by changing this up a few percent and changing 5 or 6 things that do that, but it's all incremental. Michigan is kind of our core focus in terms of the expansion. That being said, one of the things we're seeing is, some companies in Oregon and opportunities in the state to increase our production capacity because we have more demand than we have product. And some of that is through looking at opportunities for, companies who are not maybe distressed, but, overextended and realizing, we need to consolidate a little bit and should we kick this asset to someone else who can operate it more efficiently? And so we're looking at strategic opportunities that fit within our expansion model, right? Which should be Oregon and Michigan almost exclusively just because it's really hard to open a new state. And, we just know through the efforts we've done internally as well as what we've seen from our other MSOs, it takes time, effort, money. And I think we have the technical capacity to do that. But it's, anytime you're going to go to a new state, you're going to need a big chunk of funds to go complete that. Like even in Michigan, we were able to get into that state with a great partner, but we had to get a little bit of money for that. And it wasn't easy, right? Trying to raise money in this market is really, really challenging. So we're looking at good opportunities, but really it's Michigan turning that on and maybe trying to add a few things into the kind of the Oregon, just our model that we can kind of agglomerate really easily into our system. and just essentially create more manufacturing capacity.
And for everyone that's watching that maybe doesn't know as much about the company yet, what's your share structure and market cap?
So market cap today, we're probably right around 10 million Canadian. So we've got about 100 million shares.
Tiny market cap, guys. Tiny. Like
Tiny
Aurora
market.
Cannabis market cap is like 8 billion. Just put that in perspective.
And they're not making money.
Yeah, and they're losing millions. Let's just put that in perspective.
Yeah, so it's small. The share structures, we got a really tight float, right? We got really patient long-term shareholders. We cleaned up some of it on, early April. We had our good announcement as we're taking out some of the more impatient shareholders. But it's, with what we have in front of us, what we're currently operating in our track record, especially what we did in Q1 and we'll replicate again in Q2, everyone says they're undervalued, but with $10,000, you can buy 100,000 shares. $5,000 gets you 50, and I guarantee the chance of Growing Rogue going from 10 cents to 20 and doubling your money in the next 6 to 12 months is probably as good as any company you'll see.
Wow!
And not just based upon promotion, but based upon fundamentals like solid, reportable earnings, good disciplined growth. We could go out and pump a stock. Right, I could go spend a few bucks and probably take our stock to 20 cents just by buying because our float's so small. But I'm talking about doubling the value of our shares based upon fundamentals that's sustainable. Right? But to go from 10 to 20 cents in the next 6-12 months I don't think it's too far of a stretch, especially when we show what we're going to do in Q2, and that the market starts to see not just a blip in opportunity, but consistency. That's what they want. They want to see consistency. Like, who are the people in the long term and are going to continue to deliver results?
Well, I know our community loves finding stocks that double. So what I want to do is tell everyone that's watching, guys, put Grown Rogue on your watch list, put it on your radar. They are undervalued, underappreciated, underexposed, and they are now starting to be profitable. And as you can see here, directly from the CEO, he's very confident that they have a chance to go to at least 20 cents. So if we can get in at 9 cents and the stock goes to 20, we're going to get a chance to double our money. So I really want our community to really kind of look at Grown Rogue like our community company, our community stock. Because I've really made a living, and our channel has really kind of become famous for finding companies before they explode. That's what we do best. We find undervalued, underappreciated, underexposed opportunities before they explode. This is exactly what we're doing right now. We're talking directly to the CEO. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. But we are trying to find out why this is a company that is only at 9 cents, but has already started to show so much progress and so much profitability. And if you ask yourself, why is this company so cheap and it's doing all the right things? Then those are the ones that you want to really think about buying, because you want to buy something before everybody else knows how great it is. That's the key to investing, is finding something, that diamond in the rough, before anybody else. Because once everybody else knows how great Grown Rogue is, it'll be too late. Stock already be at 20, 30 cents. And then usually what investors do, I don't know why, but you probably know this, Obi. Investors buy once it's already at 20 cents. Oh my goodness, it's at 20 cents. I got to buy it now. But you want to buy it before it explodes, guys, not after it explodes. I've done it too. We make this.
Though, right? People, buying begets buying, selling begets selling. But it's, a company like Grown Rogue, if you're interested in cannabis, should be a portion of your portfolio, right? It's not your whole portfolio, but if you don't have some exposure to Grown Rogue, and you're watching this and you're interested in cannabis, I think you're missing, right?
I love it. Well, you know what, Obi, thank you so much for all your hard work and effort, man. This has been great, this journey with you, watching you grow and get to profitability. This is so amazing. I'm so proud of you, and especially considering the fact that we're in the middle of this crazy time and you guys are having personal best quarter.
Yep.
Amazing. So congratulations on all your success. Continue to have your success. And you're always welcome on the show, my friend. Let's do this again soon. And
Absolutely.
I'll be watching. And if there's any other big explosions in the market or any big news that happens, I'll definitely be covering it, showing the community. And I'm going to continue to tell your story until people start to listen. And guys, I don't know how many times I've done this, but we've done it many, many times where we find companies first before they explode. We're going to be on this show one day in the future, and this will be at 20 cents, and we're going to talk about today. So mark it on your calendar.
That's right.
Mark today's date on your calendar, because there will be a day when we're at 20 cents and we're going to say, see, we told you. All right, Obi, thank you so much for all your hard work, brother. Have yourself a great day. Let's get you on the show soon, and congratulations on your profitable quarter.
All right. Thanks, Rich. And same to you. Stay healthy with the family, and we'll talk soon.
All right, my friend. Take care.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.